Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we get roll call, please?
Mayor Dave Dillon.
Here.
Council members Norris Johnson,
Here.
Lindsee Larson, here. Ken Mueller,
Here.
Tim Porker, absent.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
I have no additions. Anybody else have anything? Any additions or anything? Hearing none, all in favor of the agenda indicate with an eye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Agenda passes. On the consent agenda tonight is the approval of the minutes from May 15th, 2025, approval of bills, and resolution 2516 lawn mowing. Can I get a motion for that?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Anybody have any questions or concerns or comments on that? Hearing none, all in favor of the consent agenda indicate with an eye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Consent agenda passes. Open forum, if there's anybody here tonight that would like to address anything that is not on the agenda. And also, if you haven't, I think everybody signed in, but if you haven't, make sure you please sign in tonight before you leave. Okay, hearing none on the open forum, we'll move ahead to requests and communications. The auditor's presentation of the audited financial statements. It's all yours.
All right. Is this thing on, or do I have to press the button here?
It's on.
It's on, okay, sorry.
Just double check.
Sure. All right, so I'm going to walk us through the presentation of the 2024 audit. And I believe you all have a copy of the presentation in front of you. We passed out the full audited financial statements for both members of governance, but you should also have a smaller packet called the presentation of the audited financial statements. And I'll kind of summarize the contents of the one too. So as in the past, I like to start out with just a quick reminder of what exactly the audit process is, what is the purpose of an audit, what do we do during the audit. In a nutshell, an audit essentially consists of us reviewing your financial activity and transactions from the past year, 2024, and looking at the supporting information behind this activity. So looking at underlying invoices, bank statements, reports from the state, etc., all for the purpose of verifying the information that's in your accounting system so that we can verify the accuracy of the financial statements. So based on these procedures, we've given you what's called an unmodified opinion, which is a clean opinion, and that's the best opinion that you can achieve. Next page here says required communications on it. Basically, you have the clean opinion, but now this is, letting you know how did the audit go, how did the process itself go. As you can see from what's on the page here, everything went smoothly. Nothing unusual identified in terms of strange transactions or accounting policies. Everything was pretty standard. Next page says internal controls at the top. As part of the audit process, we also review your processes and procedures for completing the accounting behind all of the accounting processes. And we look at the controls that are in place. And we always have a few items here that we need to report to you. I would say the three that are listed here are basically the standard three for a city your size. So walking through each one of these real quick. The first one relates to audit adjustments. So what this means is that when we get the numbers from you, from your accounting system, we have to make a few adjustments to get them to the accrual basis of accounting. So in your accounting system, you basically keep the numbers on the cash basis, just recording cash receipts and disbursements. We need to help with some of these year-end adjustments to get the financials where they need to be, and because we assist with that, we have to mention that in the report. The next item there pertains to segregation of duties. Basically, you only have one or two people that do all of your accounting, and because you don't have a whole team of accountants that are segregating all of the different accounting functions, there's a heightened risk that you have certain people with basically entire access to your accounting system. So something for you to be aware of and implement controls wherever you can. And then finally, the third item there, we as a third party do prepare your financial statements. And whenever you have somebody outside of the city doing that process, there's theoretically a risk that there's a missing disclosure or an error of some sort in the financials that's not detected. All right, move on to the next page. A review of your compliance with Minnesota statutes. So as part of the audit, the state requires us to review various checklists that cover the statutes in these areas. So how did you go about contracting and bidding? Did you solicit bids? Where do you keep your cash and investments? Are there any transactions with conflicts of interest, et cetera? As you can see, we didn't have any findings, no compliance issues with Minnesota statutes from what we saw. All right, next page here, this is something that's new this year. You had a federal award this past year for the airport road project. You had a federal grant from HUD. And because you had federal grant expenditures of over $750,000, we needed to perform what's called a compliance audit, a single audit. And essentially, that's looking at the terms of that grant and making sure that you spent the dollars on what you said you were going to, making sure that you did the proper reporting, etc. In a nutshell, everything was clean. Okay, with that, we'll move into the numbers a bit. The first page here with numbers says general fund trend analysis at the top. This is just a really big picture look at the general fund over the past 5 years, and then the budget is on the right-hand side there. From a really big picture, you can see the general fund revenues were over budgeted amounts by about $190,000 for the year, whereas expenditures were actually below budgeted amounts by about $413,000. And then that table on the left-hand side, or on the bottom on the right-hand side, it also has a category for other sources. That's transfers from other funds and bond proceeds that were received during the year. And with all of that activity factored in, you had budgeted for a decrease in your fund balance of about $23,000 for the year. Your actual increase in fund balance was about $340,000. The next two pages take a look at those same revenues and expenditures, still just for the general fund, and we break it down into smaller categories here and do a little more detail. So first looking at revenues on this page, you can see across the board, 2024 revenues in the red there were pretty close to the green budgeted amounts. Your largest revenue categories being intergovernmental, which is essentially state aid, and then taxes and assessments. Both of those were very close to budget. On the right-hand side, that's where some of your budgetary differences come in. Interest income, investment income was over budget by about $111,000. It's basically fluctuations in the fair market value of your investments. Contributions and donations were also over by about $76,000. Next page, we have the same layout, but looking at expenditures for the general fund. Once again, just walking through and comparing to budget, there's really only two areas where I see even a slight deviation from budget. The first one being public works. Here you were under budget by about $95,000. Looked like it was mostly related to road repairs and maintenance. But part of that could be that some of those expenses got coded under the capital outlay section over on the right-hand side. You can see over there, you were also under budget, but you were up quite a bit from the prior year because you had additional costs for the 2024 road improvement projects. Outside of those two areas, though, you were very close to budget across the board. All right, next page, still focusing on the general fund. Here we look at the unassigned, or actually unrestricted, portion of your fund balance at the end of the year as a percentage of your annual budgeted expenditures. So the city actually has a policy in place to have a minimum of approximately 5 months, or about 42% of your annual operating expenditures set aside in this unrestricted fund balance. You can see that your percentage was 82% last year, and it jumped up to about 85% this year. You're well in excess of your minimum fund balance policy. we'll just briefly look at some of your other funds here. So here on the next page, we have your debt service fund, your airport road project fund, and then your non-major funds, just kind of in aggregate. Those are just the rest of your funds. Debt service fund, pretty standard activity here. Payments on debt, principal, and interest financed by taxes and assessments. Overall, an increase in fund balance here of about $125,000 for the year, basically because you had transfers from other funds. You closed out a capital project fund and transferred some dollars in there. Airport road project fund, this is where that grant money to HUD landed. That's the a little over $1 million of revenues you see there. And then, of course, the expenditures are the project expenses. So ended the year with a slight deficit of about $36,000 in that fund balance. And then the non-major funds, that's basically just your EDA fund, miscellaneous capital projects, TIF, etc. Overall, a decrease in fund balance there of about $250,000. The next page shows those same three categories, but just the cash in each one of those categories over the past 5 years. Debt service did increase about $164,000, whereas capital project, those funds decreased about $100,000. Some of that change is related due to cash being transferred from those capital project funds into debt service as you closed out some of those. And then the other governmental funds, cash decreased there about $36,000. All right. From there, we'll move away from your governmental funds and we'll take a look at your enterprise funds. So this is your water and sewer and liquor funds. So we have a quick graph on each one of these funds, the first being the water fund. The graph is focusing just on operations, the operating activities. You can see operating revenues were up about $73,000 from the prior year, whereas operating expenses were down about $32,000. So you did have operating income this year of about $25,000. Overall, with that non-operating activity factored in, you had an increase in net position for the year of about $64,000. Sewer fund on the next page. Over the past 5 years, same layout. Here, pretty similar story. Operating revenues were also up about $27,000. Expenses held pretty steady, down about $7,000. So overall, an operating loss here of about $73,000. And with the non-operating activity factored in, the overall decrease in the net position for the year was about $44,000. And last enterprise fund on the next page, this is your liquor fund. Here, net sales, so sales net of the cost of those sales, was down about $17,000 for the year. And then the operating expenses were also down about $8,700. So overall operating income here of about $149,000. You made your transfer to the general fund of about $300,000 for the year. And because of that, you did have a decrease in net position overall of about $139,000. All right, then the next page, just like with the others, we have the cash over the past 5 years for each one of these three funds. All three declined a bit. Water fund and sewer both dropped off, $143,000 and $88,000. And then your liquor fund did decrease about $47,000 in cash, which, considering the $300,000 transfer to the general fund, is pretty good. Okay, so that does it for each one of the individual funds of the city. I have just a couple more slides here that kind of look at everything big picture wrapped together. So the next few slides look at the city as a whole, the overall assets of the city, broken out between current assets, items that are cash, receivables, more short-term, versus the infrastructure, capital assets. You can see the only real change here from last year from 2023 to 2024 is an increase in the amount that you've invested in infrastructure, so the roads and improvements. That's the increase for the current year. The next page, looking at liabilities, Similar story, if you ignore that green bar for just a moment and look at your liabilities without that net pension liability factored in, you can see the increase was due to the new debt that was issued during the year, during 2024. And I say ignore that net pension liability because that's really just an on-paper liability. That's your proportionate share of para's pension plans, which you couldn't pay off even if you wanted to. And because of that, on the following page, I exclude that net pension liability just because it fluctuates and skews things a little bit. And here we have those same assets from 2 pages ago, the same liabilities from the previous page, and then that green is the trend line, the difference between the two over the past 5 years. You can see on average you've been on an upward trend on your net assets minus liabilities. And then just for informational purposes, I have 2 graphs here that show your future debt payment obligations for the remaining term of the debt. So the first slide here shows your governmental funds debt. This is the debt that's being financed by taxes and assessments. 6 issuances outstanding. Paid off. So moving through 2027 to 2039 is the the graph here isn't showing the balance outstanding. It's showing and then the next page shows the same thing for your water fund. You have 2 issuances that are nearly paid off in your water fund. One of those is paid off in 2026 and then the other one is 2028. All right, I know that's a lot of information really fast. If anybody has any questions.
Any questions? Overall, it seems like all good numbers.
Yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, it's going to be like, I have no concerns. The audit was good, smooth. We got the cleanup and then things seem to be trending in a good direction, or stable.
Do you have any questions? Thank you very much. Appreciate all your work.
Thank you.
Need a motion to accept the report. Can I get a motion for that?
I'll make a motion to accept the report.
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the audit, indicate with an eye.
Aye.
Opposed? So the audit passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we can move on to ordinances and resolutions. Resolution number 2517, resolution adopting policies for the delegation of authority for payment of certain claims for the city of Milaca. Need a motion for that?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second that.
Anything we need to know that's not part of the,
Basically, this comes from one of the questions from the auditors that the bills that we pay after the council meeting, we have this policy in place, and it's usually the health insurance. First of the month. And liquor bills. This policy in place.
any questions on that? Okay, all in favor of resolution 2517 indicate with an eye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 2517 passes. Resolution 2518 is to transfer funds in a couple different categories. I better get a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Any questions on the transfers? I think they're all things we've talked about.
These are transfers that end up, why the report fund is in a negative balance. We had water and sewer projects within that project, and once the project is finally getting to the end of its stage, now we can transfer the monies back to it.
Any other questions or comments on that? Hearing none, all in favor of 2518 indicate with an eye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution 2518 passes. Ordinance 544, solar energy systems, first reading. I get a motion for that.
I'll make the motion.
And second?
Okay. Questions, comments? Kind of just putting us, having something in place for this.
Yes,
Is sort of a standard.
yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Everything good with you on that, Damien?
Yep.
Anybody have any questions on it? Thought I covered pretty much everything. Nope. Okay, all in favor of ordinance 544 indicate with an eye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance 544 passes first reading. Okay, moving on to reports of departments, boards, and commissions. City manager.
I don't have anything at the moment.
Police, I don't think Chief's here. Don't.
No.
Parks and Gary's not here. Public Works, contractor's request for payment number 6 to Northern Lines Contracting in the amount of $418,167.14. That's the 110th Avenue project. Can I get a motion for that?
So move. I'll second.
Does this come close to closing that out?
No, there'll be a final payment, yeah.
Yeah, but we're close.
We're close.
Okay.
They finished the final,
Yep, it's all been paved. They've been doing the shoulder work. That's pretty much done. There'll be a punch list that, of things that the engineer will look at. If there's fixes that need to be done before the final payment, the engineer will take care of that.
Looks good.
yeah.
That'll be your new route now.
Yeah, well, it only goes halfway down.
Okay, all in favor of the request for payment indicate with an eye.
Aye.
Opposed? So the request for payment to Northern Lights Contracting passes. Liquor store, Vicky, you're here, I know you are. There you are.
So we moved our ice machines, we have one outside and one in our entryway, great for customers, but it created a wall of space for me to go back to some of my bigger buys of some of our liquor. So we've got it filled up, I did a big pallet buy, saved us over $1,000 on it, which is 100% pure. Buy. So we are stocked.
That's good. It'll finally get warm out. Well, it's gonna the way it sounds, so. Okay, thanks, Vicky. Fire department, you guys?
Had a lot of calls lately.
Which truck was it?
Thanks, you guys. Moving on to planning and zoning, resolution number 2519, approving a conditional use permit to have a zoning district. Can I get a motion for that?
So move. I'll second
Okay, we should have some discussion on this. I know planning commission, they went through it, made some changes. That's you, right? Yeah, okay. So if there's anything we need to know or anything, or if you guys have questions, he's here, so.
Yeah, so the only thing that's gonna differ from
Okay. And it's multi-level?
Yes.
Okay. First level housing?
There's one unit on the first
Anybody else have questions?
Parking. Typically won't be able to drive.
housing for autism.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have the function to drive.
Right.
Putting some language in there to keep that as a facility like that, to where, it doesn't become apartments where the parking would be an issue, so.
Right, and that's been addressed in the, okay. When's your hope to try and build this?
I wanna try to get everything put together and start it in the fall, if possible. That's my hope.
Okay. And there'll be some issues with water sewer to figure out, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we kinda
Yep.
talked about that with Gary and the engineer already, so.
Okay. All right. Anybody else have questions? Anything else that came up at the meeting, Norris, we need to know?
The main concern was access to the alley, for trucks for the construct the alley at all. So.
Just like the rest of it, I'll just do all of it.
Right now, there's no designated parking where the building is moved, so that's kind
Any other questions or comments or anything? Approving the commission to allow high-speed vehicle fuel tanks to
of
to the south. Like that. I didn't see that turn and everything was there. Okay. Any questions for general topic?
I was trying to determine the proper code.
Well, we'll finally eliminate, and then we'll get it down to an organization for your stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of just do the orders. No other questions? All in favor of resolution 2520? We'll give it an aye. Aye. Opposed? Resolution 2520 passes. Airport, can we get anything on that? Food plans, we expect 2025. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
With the water and
What's their timeline?
by the time we get
There it
out.
is. Construction by September. Couldn't remember what the date was.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions on that? If not, all in favor indicate with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So the sidewalk improvement plan passes. B, initiative foundation request. I get a motion.
Second?
Anybody on that? I can tell you they. All they're going to talk about Milaca with Storm River Community Foundation and some of the things that they do and stuff because they're doing.
Aye.
Opposed? The lot split for Jesse
I'll second that.
Any questions on that, or? Anything other than what's on here? You guys, are you all good with it? Damien, it all look good to you?
Yep.
Okay. Look fine to me. Hearing none, all in favor indicate with an aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Lot split for Jesse Lateral passes. Council comments. Lindsee?
I have nothing.
Oh, not me.
Norris?
Yes, I had some involvement in looking at some rental property in a city just to the west of us, not to mention any names, but the property manager was expressing some some of the problems that they've encountered. They're rebuilding a street and assessing each property a huge amount to rebuild the street in front of them, and just some major expenses that are obstacles to any development there. And I'm thinking, we don't do that in Milaca. You know, we don't, they had done some water main work and, in front of an existing building, and then they got a bill for $3,000 to reconnect.
Oh.
And he said, well, I was already connected, why, I mean, just a lot of expenses. And the one building that we were looking at, the assessment for the street improvement was like $100,000.
Oh, my.
So it's, and I was able to tell them that we don't do that in Milaca.
Come on over.
And it was reassuring that we do some things well here. And
Good.
we try to, I mean, all those kinds of expenses really put a damper on people wanting to buy homes there, and also their water and sewer rates are just astronomical. A few years back, they decided to pump all their sewage to St. Cloud
Oh, okay.
for treatment rather than put their own system in, and they're paying off a huge assessment for that, or it's in the sewer bill. And also they said in summertime, if they water their lawns, they get socked for both water and sewer. And I said, we don't do that in Milaca.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah,
You do use the water.
Yeah.
Well, you pay for
It's
the water,
the
but
sewer,
not the sewer.
the sewer's
It still
dropped.
does, because when I sprinkled my lawn,
Oh, yeah, yeah, you pay
When
for
did
it.
you not drop the sewer?
No, we do charge for whatever
You
goes
do.
through the meter, and the sewer
It
gets
used
the
to go
same.
down June, July, and August.
Yeah.
No, we haven't done that for quite a few years.
Oh, really? Uh-oh. Because I remember we
Yep.
did pass that,
Mm-hmm.
where it was, the sewer was capped at an average, and for,
We'd go broke in the sewer fund if we continued to do
Okay.
that.
well, then
Yeah.
I misspoke, sorry. Because I know that we had,
Yeah.
that issue had come up because people were, it said we're not using the sewer in the summer for all that additional water, why are we paying for sewer? And we changed it at some point, but evidently it got changed back.
Well, this year you don't have to water anyhow, so it's all, you don't have to water anything this year anyhow.
Not this year, no. No. So, anyway,
Is that it?
that's it.
That's it.
Okay, that did remind me when you mentioned apartments, they did start work on the apartments on 23 there. So that started, well, you would know, it's right by you.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's getting going, that's good to see. The only other things I had is just a reminder of, and you, obviously why we're meeting tonight. The Kitty Parade is on Monday, the parade's on Tuesday, Music in the Park on Thursday. I know Abby's having, Lingle's Pottery's having her open house. So there's quite a few things going on. Yep. Yeah, big rig thing. What's on Sunday?
Legion has an open house.
Oh, yeah, that one. Yeah, that's this Sunday. Yep,
Very busy
yep.
weekend.
Yeah.
How many bands you got
Who?
for the parade?
I don't know.
Oh, I thought you.
I don't know. Quite a few, I'm sure.
22?
22.
Is it? I don't have anything else, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.